Did you read the Gazette notice? He's the one who signed it. He's actually on top of everything. Yeah, anything else that I hear you've read on press and others, I'm not going to get involved because I am not completely briefed on that. The brief that I have is that it's perfectly in order. So let's proceed. Proceed. We are moving the next motion, that is by the chairperson, Jailak. Have you called the order? Yes, you have. So proceed. In the same spirit that anything that is detailed in your report, you really don't need to repeat it, the members can read. You pick those salient areas, then we can be able to dispense with every activity that we have, because we only have today to deal with these matters that were set out by the Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Formally, let me set out the motion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the consideration of a nominee for appointment as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 166, Sub-Article 1A of the Constitution, with Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the report of my committee is fairly exhaustive. It is self-explanatory. It is online. But I would like to mention at the outset that my committee was able to beat the deadlines that were previously given by the Speaker, 24th of May, by 10 days. Mr. Speaker, without delving into the major report, I would like to highlight, with your permission, some of the special attributes that make the Honorable Martha Koome stand out uniquely as a first above equals, but with unmatched qualities for the office of Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to remove my mask, to be able to. I'm very uncomfortable. Yes, I have kept distance.
With that.
As you can see. You
see, we have been very consistent in asking members. It's only that you are in an N95, so it is interfering with your.
Yes.
The voice, you know, I can see you have some problem with creating that voice.
Yes.
But
Mr. Speaker,
you need to wear the mask. You will be brief anyway, so put the mask. And by the way, the member seated next to you does not have a mask, and I might actually take very, very serious steps against her, because the two of you not in a mask is not good at all.
We take your advice.
Yes, so proceed.
Mr. Speaker, let me highlight some of the attributes that relate.
And by the way, we can hear you very well. Proceed, please.
The judge is a wife, mother, and has a solid family background, has very sound educational and professional background, wide experience in family law, children's rights, and human rights, has vision to revolutionize the judiciary and eliminate corruption in all forms and shades. She believes I can testify that she demonstrated that he believes in active constitutionalism and has distinguished herself in upholding the Constitution without influence of political, ethnical, or other parochial considerations. She is an able communicator who undertakes to improve the relationship between Parliament and the executive and the judiciary to ensure that budgetary allocations as a constitutional budgetary allocations to the judiciary as a constitutional requirement is met so that independence of the judiciary is sustained.
Honorable Babu Awino, I know you are a first-timer. Something called a phone is not allowed within the chamber because, you know, you are actually out of order, really. You need to apologize for, you know, if, in fact, without even hiding it, you are actually standing up to do that. Honorable Babu, what do you have to say before I take any punitive steps against you? Honorable Babu Ongili.
Sorry for that, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, if you have, it's not easy to get a sorry from you, so once that happens, let us proceed.
Out of respect.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may continue. The lady is able to somebody dialogue to solve the stalemate in the appointment of the 41 or so judges. She is able to ensure that the ratio in Wabora case, if you recall, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Wabora case, that the courts should, with a lot of circumspection and sparingly issue orders that may inhibit parliamentary processes and procedures. She would also, she confirms that she rose to unnecessarily create bad blood with the other arms of government. She has a vision to ensure wide access to justice, and this she demonstrated in areas, Doktown, Londo, and Okcha. She was able to provide mobile facilities for justice. She created that facility. She is ready to avoid and curtail any activism and experimental, new and untried areas of jurisprudence. Particularly, Mr. Speaker, she is ready, able and willing to breathe life to Article 259 of our Constitution, which the relevant passage is that this Constitution shall be construed, interpreted in a manner that, most important, there are 4 considerations, but the last one is a crucial one, that in a manner that contributes to good governance. And on the same article, she says she is able to ensure that the law will always be speaking. we found that she is able to think outside the box, and that she would not be living in a judicial island or utopia or ivory tower. She aspires to do substantial justice other than delving on technical formalities. She will critically think beyond Maraga advisory by invoking the principle that the law serves man and humanity and not the reverse. That the law is not static, must be actualized in a manner that contributes to good order. She will be seeking to retain, to reclaim lost glory for the judiciary in line with the principles enunciated, those professional colleagues and others that may know, the principles that were for a long time enunciated by the late Justice Chunalao Madan. That is the greatest Chief Justice Kenya has had so far. Then there was another judge, the principles laid by a judge in Uganda, 1966, Sir Udo Udoma, who in 1966, after Obote overthrew Kabaka, there appeared to be a vacuum in government. And that judge said that there can never be a vacuum in institutions of government, and that because Obote government appeared to be in control de facto, he made it the de jure government of Uganda. Then lastly, there is Lord Denning, famous for what we call high trees, espousing on estoppel, and many other milestones. I mentioned this because these are her mentors. Mr. Speaker, the other salient matters that were noted by the committee are that there were some objections raised to her appointment made by Nelson Harvey, Keref Kaliva. These same objections had been raised before Judicial Service Commission. In that forum, they were dismissed. But in my committee, in its wisdom, found that these objections had no root, they were unmeritorious, unsubstantiated, vexatious, and malicious. The committee was also satisfied with the response by the nominee to the objections. All the necessary statutory reports and other necessary reports by KRI, intelligence, and other bodies were furnished to the committee. That Article 166 relating to appointment of the Chief Justice were met, and that all the statutory procedures preceding the approval had been duly met. Mr. Speaker, now that the statutory procedure and constitutional provisions were met, all the requirements were met in the first schedule of the Judicial Service Act 2011 on provision relating to the appointment procedure for appointment of judges. Mr. Speaker, then pursuant to Article 166 of the Constitution of Kenya, the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, starting under 216, suborder 5F, and 199 of the National Assembly, the committee unanimously recommends that, and by unanimous, Mr. Speaker, I say the committee is constituted by 19 members, 15 set, 4 are absent with apologies, and those 15 have appended their signature endorsing the approval of Lady Justice Martha Koome for appointment by His Excellency the President to become the next Chief Justice of the Republic. Mr. Speaker, sir, lastly, I wish to express gratitude to all members of GLAC for the efficiency, devotion in dealing with this matter and rendering the report professionally and expeditiously. The committee also wish to express gratitude to the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly and his staff for ensuring that all processes attendant to this nomination were professionally handled and timelines met. In the circumstances, therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and ask, request that my Vice Chief Justice, I think...
Well, there is a lot of merit in allowing other members to speak, even if you are the chair, because that makes it easier for you to canvass and have people support you. So if you take all the time between yourselves,
I am through.
It becomes a bit difficult for you to get support. So
Very
I'm
well.
saying as a member who's been here for a long time, and I also see a few members who have been, it is better when you are brief. You will be able to give other members an opportunity to contribute one way or the other and have something to say when you are responding, when you are replying. So you have asked that we give the Honorable TJ.
Mheshimiwa TJ Kajwang,
Yes.
my Vice Chair.
Honorable TJ, let's have you doing this.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, it looks like the member for Kangema has very good words for me. He's praying for me. One of these days, I think he will vet me for the position that he seems to think that I merit. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, first of all, to express my appreciation to the House for nominating me into this committee. I've not had the opportunity since I was nominated. And I also want to thank the committee for expressing confidence that I can join them in the leadership of this committee. I promise nothing but lowliness of heart, humility, and that I will proceed according to the law. So, Speaker, sir, management of committees is like a soccer match. The coach knows who and who to field in the soccer match. And especially if he thinks that the soccer match could end into a post-penalty, there are chances that he will reshuffle people, including goalkeepers. So when you see that I am in the game, probably I am there to shoot
now,
the
Mr. Seconder, get back to the main
Mr.
business.
Speaker, those are very relevant to this issue because all these issues are dovetailing around the issues concerning the committee. But I'm a seasoned member of this committee. I rise to second this motion for the approval of the Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, sir, you should watch the video. Mr. Speaker, I want to get your attention. Mr. Speaker, sir, if I could just get a little attention from the Speaker's office. You should watch the video. Mr. Speaker, so I was making a comment. I'm making a very, and I think the leader of the majority should listen to me also. You should watch the video of how this committee conducted the vetting. It is how it should be done. And as the Deputy Speaker and the Chair of Liaison, I humbly suggest that this video should be clipped and sent to committees so that we have a proper way, a way with decorum, that approval hearings, selection hearings should be done in the Assembly. It is how it should be done, now, the quality of it all.
Now, who was the judge in this one? Maybe what you should be suggesting, Honorable TJ,
yes.
You have actually, excited the House to want to look at the video.
Yes.
Now, don't say anything more on the video. We definitely will be getting back to the committee on whether we think that they did a good job and therefore spread the gospel to the rest of the committee.
I'm sure you'll return a verdict.
I can assure you that one, we will want that video, and we will want to see what happened in this committee that even TJ
I'm
himself.
sure you'll return a verdict that this is how things should be done. But Mr. Speaker, sir, the approval is governed by Section 7 of the Parliamentary Approval Act. And the three issues that we look at is the procedure adopted by the interviewing panels, the constitutional and statutory suitability, and then the last one is a whole gamut called suitability in terms of experience and competence. The report is replete with specific findings on the procedure that was adopted, the constitutional and statutory competences that the Lady Chief Justice exhibited, and issues on suitability. And you will find that in every of those issues, we have made specific recommendations approving the competence of Lady Chief Justice Martha Koome. But I don't want to spend time on that because that is in the report. I just want to speak to Lady Justice Koome. I'm sure wherever she is, she would be delighted to hear the National Assembly speak to her. Because this is the last time she's in our hands doing the vetting and the approval. I would want Chief Justice, when she is in office, to quickly look at Article 254, which is reporting by commissions and independent office. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know that in this article, every end of financial year, the commission, including the judiciary, will report to the parliament, will submit a report to the president and to parliament. The president, the people before Chief Justice Martha Koome took a rather condescending attitude to the National Assembly, arguing that they could not come to the jurisdiction of National Assembly to make reports. They would rather send the registrar. We would want to see a Chief Justice who knows, who respects institutions. And one day, she would write to you as the Speaker to allow her to come and commend herself to the National Assembly and to give what they call the state of the judiciary every financial year. That is what we want. We would not want a Chief Justice who thinks that leadership of institutions is a question of bravado. These issues were put to her, and she understands the views that have been expressed by the National Assembly. And I'm sure that she would look at Article 254 very closely, and we will want to have a relationship between the judiciary and the legislature in a mature manner which is beneficial to everyone. The question of independence of judiciary is a bothersome issue, Mr. Speaker. You know, nobody complains, nobody undermines the independence of judiciary. Just like the legislature is independent. But if you are not careful, this issue called independence of the judiciary could be a big elephant in the house. We must start talking about it. Because we are talking about excesses of the executive. We are talking sometimes about excesses in legislature. But it would seem that this issue about independence of judiciary is an issue that Kenyans need to look at. Otherwise, we can see a situation where we are getting into what is called judicial capture or what is called judicial activism, all under the aegis of independence of judiciary. Mr. Speaker, sir, I hear sometimes people talk, and recently when there was a decision of the High Court, many people are saying, oh, don't criticize those judges. Don't say things about those judges. Why not? These are people who are exercising authority delegated to them. We as legislators, we are criticized all the time. And it is good. It is the only time that public are able to engage with us. And so, when they make judicial decisions the way they did, I see no reason why Kenyans cannot have learned response and learned engagement with the merits of the decisions that they make. But the Chief Justice, I think, now knows that the question of independence of judiciary, without assaulting on it, but there must be a clear balance, because we live in this country, all of us. You choose to be independent, but you still live in this country. And so, if you want to run a judiciary which goes by legalese rather than the practicals of how we live, then you now know that you are living in a utopia. Mr. Speaker, so I want to talk about gender. I can see my time running, but we are very few, Mr. Speaker. I don't know, maybe we should have more time now that we are few of us. I want to talk about gender. The Chief Justice very well knows that the office of the Chief Justice, as well as the office of the Deputy Chief Justice, are both of one's gender. Now they should know that with that in mind, for the time that they will be in that office, there is another gender that is watching them, how they are going to exercise themselves. Mr. Speaker, sir, a few minutes to talk about gender.
Honorable TJ, whether you are going to talk about gender or anything else, you see, Honorable TJ, it's the same argument I had with your chair, that you see yourselves and the committee really went through this issue. So you probably need less time yourselves. Now, I just want you to second.
Speaker, sir, you remember there were a few engagements we had with the Speaker.
One minute.
Yes,
TJ.
there is the other gender. There is the other gender that is watching. And we want to be comfortable. For the first time, power is in the hands of two people. We want to see how they are going to exercise this power where both genders are concerned. We are very interested. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me sit down by also talking about ethnicity. I know my senior member for Kisumu East is going to talk about this. But I must speak about it. It is known, and everybody knows. No, I am seconding.
You second
I
now.
have been in this house long enough to know how to second. If you are a first timer, you should know that I have an opportunity to say everything and anything about the report.
Well, within the time allocated. So you second now.
I second, Mr.
Thank you very much, TJ. TJ, now that is... so let's proceed and do what we are supposed to do, which is to propose a question. And I proceed to propose a question, honorable members, which is that taking into consideration the finding of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the consideration of the nominee for appointment as Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th May 2021, and pursuant to provisions of Article 166(1)(a) of the Constitution and Section 3 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Subject, of course, to the notice that has been made. No, there is no issue of putting the question. Honorable members will be allowed to speak. What is it the member for Mbeere North?
Yes, Honorable, thank you, Honorable Speaker. With your kind permission, Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97-1, and notwithstanding the resolution of the House on February 10, 2021, limitation of debate on motions, including a special motion, this House orders that speaking time for each member be reduced from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker, my justification for the request for this motion, Mr. Speaker, is very simple. That this is a momentous occasion. It is a historical occasion, Honorable Speaker. You'll appreciate that the mover and the second have taken almost close to 1 hour or 45 minutes. Mr. Speaker, this is a special sitting. Time is not on our side. If we take the same amount of time, 10 minutes, and many of us want to speak in support of this motion, this is a lady who is assuming the office, Mr. Speaker, of the Chief Justice. And I have no doubt, going by the report that has been tabled by the mover, that if all of us, Mr. Speaker, were to take the entire 10 minutes, we will not give justice to this motion. And it is on that basis, Honorable Speaker, that I beg you, and I urge this House to find favor in my request that, Mr. Speaker, we limit ourselves to 5 minutes.
Don't spend more time. If you are now, honorable members, just to give you an overview, we have about 30 members who want to contribute. That should help you in making your decision one way or the other. But as far as I'm concerned, it's for you, the members, to make your decision. So that the honorable member for Imenti North has made a request.
Mbeere.
I said Mbeere. I didn't say Imenti. I said Mbeere. Mbeere North. I know that particular member very well. I went to school with him. Actually, he went to school with me. I think it's the other way around.
We went to school together.
So that he wants that we limit debate to 5 minutes. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
And as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. So 5 minutes for every member. We might ask the leader majority to relax a bit. Then he will have an opportunity to maybe have some more minutes, or based on his office. Can we start with the member for? I know the leader majority, of course, has a. But let's give a few other members first. Let's start with the Honorable Dawood, followed by Honorable Ambugu Munene, followed by Gitonga Murugara. In that order, so that we save time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, first of all, I want to thank the JSC for nominating Honorable Justice Lady Martha Koome. And Mr. Speaker, the committee of JLAC, I want to thank them sincerely. I was there in that committee as a friend of the committee because Justice Lady Martha Koome comes from my constituency, and she comes from Kidio village in Muiteria, which is in North Imenti. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Vice Chair when he said people should watch the video, because, Mr. Speaker, I was in that in the sitting on the approval, and the questions they were asking, I was very, very scared initially that if this is the way we are going to be vetting people, then I think nobody will go through, because I've been to many vetting when I was in the finance committee, and it used to be like